Hello everyone, welcome back to Navis Nobilite, and today I am going to do a brief overview of the Orcs, the Space Wog, the Daka of Dakas. Now, the Orc Fleet has a bit of a history. It's never really been as popular as it should have been. I actually key it up to Games Workshop making some of the ugliest and least inspired miniatures I have ever witnessed them build. These are actually on screen right now, examples of the orc ships that Games Workshop made, and even you can look at them and say, that doesn't look nearly as orky as it should. And you would be right. The orc ships really didn't get their glory days until much later when the Gorbag's Revenge, Death Dealer, and the other orc battleships were finally released, though the Hammer-class battlecruiser never got its own miniature. Now, originally, when the orcs were made, they were really made on the same philosophy as the Eldar, which is to be a very escort-heavy fleet. You only had two cruiser choices, just like the Eldar, and a whole mess of really upgunned escorts. And when the Armada book came out, they went whole hog into the orc design. They made battleships, they made grand cruisers or battle cruisers as they call them. They made the orc Hulk and they gave them everything they possibly could. And they actually successfully, at least in my mind, really gave the orcs what they deserved for making them to be able a more intimidating, more cruiser-based fleet. Now, many people view the orcs as overall one of the weakest fleets in the game. And I actually have to wholeheartedly disagree with this because most people end up not utilizing the orcs for what they were really meant to be, which is a very aggressive blitzkrieging army filled with very tough but vulnerable cruisers and massively overgunned escorts, which actually end up doing more of the damage than the cruiser options, which were really meant to be cheap and designed for ramming and boarding, and not much else. People got way too involved in the idea that orc ships are supposed to be about shooting, which they can, and there are a couple of examples of them being okay at it. But what you're going to find is, as the orc ships get bigger, their firepower drops off precipitously, but they still retain a lot of durability. Now, with the Armada book, they also added in a lot of gubbins, which allow you to make your ships more effective and tougher. But, the orcs also have a number of glaring weaknesses, like all of their basic baseline cruisers have 4-up rear armor, making them very vulnerable to bombers. All of their escorts have only 6-up armor in the prow and a 4-up armor in the rear, similarly making them quite weak to bomber attacks. Now, this is not the weakness that most people see it as, because the orcs also have a precipitous number of launch capacity capable ships that launch an enormous number of incredibly effective attack craft, namely phytobombers. And phytobombers are some of the most efficient and most effective attack craft in the game. It doesn't matter that they roll D3 hits, you get a ton of them. They go at a decent speed. They're great for intercepting fighters and other ordnance, and they have a much greater guarantee of causing damage to a ship, even if it has a bunch of turrets. So, when you are building your orc fleet, do not fall into the same mistake that many people do, which is I'm going to only take a couple of brute ram ships and that's all my escorts. No, you should be taking savage gunships. You should be taking uh onslaughts. You should be taking as many escorts as you can reasonably take because while on a cruiser heavy guns are very hard to use, but on a Savage gunship, they're astoundingly easy to use, and they can turn a battleship into a smoldering pile of wreckage if used properly. Now, they also have very poor leadership. Thankfully, you can buy war bosses. They also have a number of other disadvantages, like they do not have lances. Or at least, if you want to take a lance, you gotta pay for it. So the orcs, like the Corsair Eldar, are a finesse fleet. They're also a goofy fleet. It doesn't necessarily matter that you lose with the orcs. It's more of a matter of, did you have fun when you sent that 10-hit kill cruiser right into the enemy formation and then it spontaneously combusts, blowing up and taking out a bunch of enemy ships as it detonates? Because kill cruisers, while they are great at boarding and great at ramming, they are the best of all in being bombs to be sent into the enemy fleet for the enemy to destroy and then explode dramatically, taking a lot of the enemy with them. Remember, you need to think like an orc in order to play as an orc in this game. If you are not trying to ram, board, or bludgeon something at close range, you're doing it wrong. I'll go into more detailed tactical ideas when it comes to each individual ship as I go onto those ships in the actual ship's overviews, but this fleet is heavily focused on the frontal assault, going straight towards an enemy and then crumping it as hard as you can, hoping that your ship will survive, or hoping that it will not survive and then blow up. Alright everyone, I'm going to start the ship overviews now. I'll see you all in the next videos.